We would like to acknowledge the Yagara people and the Turrbal people as the traditional custodians of Meanjin, the lands in which we record this podcast today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Yep. Take it away.
Hey everyone, welcome to For the Health of the Podcast, a Healthcare Australia podcast.
Made for healthcare professionals by nurses on the inside. My name is Jessica.
And I'm Xana.
And we are actually the brand ambassadors of Healthcare Australia, and we run For the Health of It podcast for you. We have had some really amazing episodes, and I'm going to say it every week, but this is another great, fantastic episode. Oh, yeah. We are actually interviewing two people today. So we've got
a double whammy.
So we've got Kirby from the international... She's an international candidate liaison. And then we've also got Max, who is an international nurse who is doing rural remote contracts and metro contracts within Australia, which is super exciting. So we're going to kick it away with Kirby.
Hello. Am I supposed to look at the camera at any point?
No, you can just do whatever you want.
And
look at us.
Is it going to be edited?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Just be yourself.
Okay, great.
Tell us about you and your role within Healthcare Australia. What do you do?
So I started with HCA about 18 months ago in the international team. So I was approached initially on Seek, which was cute. And they were like, because I had a travel background. So I'd lived overseas in the UK for a couple of years and done customer service and travel and all that sort of stuff. So I got headhunted from that. Went in for the interview and got the job, started off in Brisbane at the time, and have, just been doing that ever since. So my role is basically I sit in between our recruiters who are based overseas, who talk to all our amazing nurses and who get their sort of initial paperwork sorted and everything before they come over, and then link to the local teams as well as our permanent recruitment team and rural and remote teams.
Nice.
So good. It's quite a big job, actually.
Yeah.
We sit with Kirby in the office, in the Brisbane office, actually, and we see she is a hard-working gal.
Yeah, international is a hard one because there's I feel like a lot of the people that approach us on social media, like I'd say 50 to 60% of them are probably internationals wanting to know how they can move to Australia because it's the ultimate dream for anyone who doesn't live in Australia to one day make it to Australia. I mean, we know it's pretty great.
Australia is amazing, so we totally get why you want to come, and we're going to give you a few little, I guess, hints and tips on how you can make the move to Australia if you've got a healthcare kind of background. Yeah. So I guess the first question we always get asked is like, how do I come to Australia? Like, one,
what's the first
they need a nursing degree, right?
Yes. So if you want to move to Australia as a nurse, definitely the first step is to get a nursing degree. I generally suggest people just do a general nursing degree because here in Australia we only have a general nursing degree. We don't have a specific paediatric or learning disability or mental health. So it means that our nurses can sort of then do just general med-surg wards, or they can go and specialise from there. And from an agency perspective, gives you a lot more options if you have a sort of general degree, general experience, because then the next step, once you've got your degree and you've had about 1 to 2 years experience, depending on your specialty in your home country, full-time, you then have to get AHPRA. Which is like the Australian Health Authority, their registration with them to get your nursing recognised over here. You too have AHPRA. Every nurse in Australia has AHPRA. So a big, long, big process. Just trying to think of good descriptors that aren't abusive towards AHPRA. So there's quite a long process when it comes to applying for AHPRA, but our team overseas are quite well versed in that. So they're very good at being able to guide you through the process, telling you what documents to get and the rough timing of things and stuff like that too. So
because Healthcare Australia obviously help guide you through the steps and everything like that, so you can do all these. But AHPRA does take a long time. Are you thinking like a 6 to 12 month period, or it's like more of a 12 plus months period of getting your AHPRA?
It really depends. So AHPRA will recognise qualifications from what they call reciprocal countries. So effectively countries where English is the first language, and they have established that the degree in nursing is equivalent to what we study here in Australia.
Right.
So that's the UK, Ireland, US, New Zealand, Canada, are typically the sort of main countries. And then you have a few others like Hong Kong, where there are some universities are recognised. So it's all to do with your actual qualification.
Okay. I think the other question that we seem to get asked a lot as well is age. So I know there's different types of sponsorships that you can get. There's like working holiday visas. You can move and relocate here with the permanent team. And there's so many different visas, but they always depend on kind of age. Can you just give us a little snippet about that kind of question that we get asked?
Yeah, for sure. So visa options, there's actually quite a few for nurses, which is really exciting. And not a lot of other professions have as many options as nurses do. So if you are under the age of 30, so between 18 and 30, you can get your working holiday visa. In some countries, you can actually get it up to age 35, which is pretty cool, so you can stay a bit longer. But that has a limit of obviously 30, 35. And then when we go to our permanent residency visas or some of our like longer term visas or any opportunity for extending your visa after living here for a few years, you actually have to be under the age of 45, which is an interesting rule that the immigration department has put in place. So there was no restrictions for working for HCA in terms of age, but unfortunately with the visa sponsorship and permanent residency, there can be. However, there is actually a visa called the 482 visa, which gives you up to 4 years of living and working in Australia at any age. So it's a priority visa. So if you want to get to Australia in the next 3 to 4 months, do a couple of years' work, no matter what age you are, provided that you've got the skills, you're actually eligible for that visa.
So good.
Yeah.
I think, like, listening to this, you can definitely tell that, like, Kirby knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And all our international team, like, know their things. So sometimes people reach out to Xana and I on social media because we run Instagram and Facebook and all those kind of platforms, and we don't know those answers. So we have to go to Kirby and stuff to try and get these answers for you. But the best way to contact the international team is international@healthcareaustralia.com.au.
Yes.
And you would suggest attaching your CV?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're keen to come on board with HCA and you're living overseas, it's all about where you're based. So if you're based overseas, you are our lovely nurse that we would like to talk to. So please email over your CV that goes over your skills and experience. So that would be sent to international@healthcareaustralia.com.au. Nice and easy. And then we'll have local officers that we'll then pass it over to. So you'll always be reached out to in your local time zone. You're not going to have to try and like coordinate a reference being called at 4 a.m. or something like that because, you know, your recruiters in Australia. We have everyone based overseas. So it just makes that process a lot easier. And then, once your file's all sort of ready to go, you get handed to me and then answer all your questions and stuff like that.
Nice. And it's coming into winter overseas pretty much everywhere else. So we suggest coming to Australia because it's nice and warm and summer is great.
Get the ball rolling. So our next interview is with Max, and he's actually an international nurse.
Yeah.
And he's come over to Australia. So we'll talk to him about, you know, what his experience and his move. And it's going to be a great part 2 of the episode. So keep tuned. All right, guys. We have part 2 of the episode. We have the amazing, the spectacular, the most fabulous nurse in Healthcare Australia. No, all of our nurses are fabulous, by the way. But he is in Team Purple, and we have with us Max. Welcome.
Ooh, hello. Thank you.
I know, what an intro for you, hey?
Great intro. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us on For the Health of It podcast. We've been very excited.
Yeah, we've been very excited. We chatted to Kirby this morning about all things international nursing, getting over here, moving here from another country. So we just want to get into your journey. How did you start or decide to move to Australia, and how did it all happen?
Yeah, it was a quite wild journey.
Yeah.
Came from New Zealand to here. It took about 2.5 months, the whole process.
It was during COVID, right?
Yeah, it was during COVID. It was pretty difficult, but made it at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you don't sound like you're a Kiwi. So tell us about the journey behind that. You're from somewhere else. When did you move to New Zealand?
So originally Ukrainian. Grew up in Israel. Moved to New Zealand about 6 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kind of a mix of an accent there.
Yeah,
Definitely no Kiwi accent there.
What made you choose New Zealand to move to?
Just wanted to travel a bit, and New Zealand sounded pretty beautiful from what other people told me, and it's the furthest I could get from where I was.
Nice.
Perfect. And you were working as a nurse in New Zealand?
Yes, I was doing nursing in New Zealand.
Incredible experiences. How have you found working as a nurse in New Zealand compared to Australia? And also, like, obviously back home from when you originated.
I think nursing in New Zealand and Australia is pretty similar. ICU is very similar. I think the wards have more support in Australia compared to New Zealand. But very similar in general, very similar.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's been quite like an easy journey, do you think, of like...
Yeah, it was a very easy journey, very easy transition, yeah.
That's good. What about like our medications and stuff? Like, are they called the same things? Was that a bit confusing? Our lingo?
The medications, most of them are similar. Some have different names, but yeah, a lot of similarities.
Yeah,
Okay,
you just
that's
crack
good.
on with it. You're
That's
like,
why
oh, yep.
it's so easy for Kiwis to just move over here and nurse. That's why they do it so easily as
They have
well.
so many.
Yeah.
So talk about the journey like of coming over here. So obviously you came during COVID. Like, what kind of support did you have with Healthcare Australia when you kind of came over? You know, because that would have been quite a battle with COVID going on, trying to get into each state.
Yeah, it was pretty hard. So I think I contacted Healthcare Australia either in June or July initially, and I was directed to the international team, and specifically Kirby. And from there on, she really helped me with the process and really guided me with all the paperwork that I needed. So I booked my first flight to Perth. It was in August.
Wow.
But it got cancelled.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did
Yeah,
you
it's like
get? How
Perth.
did you get into Perth?
Yeah, so I never made it to Perth.
Well, also, you probably wouldn't be able to get out either. So it's probably a good
It was a
thing.
separate country. You like needed a passport during that time
Yeah.
to get there.
So I never made it to Perth because the flight got cancelled once, and then again had to contact Kirby, and we changed everything, did a new lot of paperwork, and I booked another flight, and then the second flight got cancelled about 3 days before I left. Then booked another flight, end of September it was. They got cancelled again a couple of days before.
Oh. You're like, am I ever going to get to Australia?
Yeah. So we had to do many travel declarations and travel exemptions and all these types of paperwork that HCA was amazing helping with. Yeah.
So good. They definitely they're there for the nurses, especially during the times of COVID and stuff. Like that was such a hard time, I think, for any kind of organisation or healthcare facility. But I'm glad you got over here because you've had such a ball. Tell us about what you've been doing since you've been here. You've been to New South Wales and now you're in Queensland.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So we made a plan with Kirby from the national team to land me in Sydney because that was the easiest option to get me to Australia. And then while I was in Sydney, because it was the red zone, I wasn't allowed to explore Sydney too much. So I was being careful over there. And then our plan was to move closer to the Queensland border and stay there for a little bit. So I'll be able to clear the COVID restrictions and cross the border. So I went to Byron for a little bit.
What a gorgeous area as well.
It's a gorgeous area, and I even got work over there. So while I was surfing during the morning, I was COVID swabbing during the day.
Oh,
what a life.
Living the life in Byron Bay and getting paid as an agency nurse.
And getting paid as an agency nurse.
Oh, I'm sure you saw the one guy that's always in Byron Bay and he often has a parrot on his head.
Did you meet
Have you
the guy?
seen the guy with the parrot on his head in Byron Bay at the markets? Oh my goodness.
Oh.
He wears colourful, like a multicolour rainbow outfits and he's always on the street dancing. He sometimes has hula hoops, but he's usually at the markets with a parrot on his head and he sings a song and he goes, got a parrot on your head in Byron Bay, got a parrot on your head on Byron Bay.
He's the coolest guy ever.
I need to go back to check it
I'll
out.
show you a video later. He's the coolest guy.
I even saw him when I was in Byron the other weekend singing the psychic.
Oh,
saw him
guy.
singing a different song though.
Okay, you have to go back. But at the moment, you're in Tweed doing a contract.
Yeah, I'm in Tweed, so I'm pretty close to Byron. So yeah,
exciting.
maybe I'll go
You're making
check
your way
Byron.
up and then eventually going to come into
Well, you
Queensland.
did do Harvey Bay as well. So you were in Harvey Bay for a while.
Yeah, so from Byron Bay, I went to Harvey Bay, and contract kept extending there, and I ended up staying there for about 8 months in total.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, if I, give up my job and I take on these contracts, like, am I going to get enough work? Like, what if I'm jobless? A lot of people have that fear. And I myself have done contracts for 9 months back to back. And then I've just gone on a 3-week holiday. Then I've come back, more contracts. I've never been without work.
There's definitely a lot of work. You can work full time for as long as you want.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Especially contracts. And you have 3/4 of the contracts. Actually, 90% of the contracts I've done, you can always extend in that place.
You can always
Definitely.
extend.
And if you're obviously a hard worker, they're going to want to take you back. So there is a lot of work, everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Definitely.
I think we would love to know some just funny nursing stories. We interviewed Georgie Carroll just recently, and that was in the previous episode. And we just loved talking nursing stories because our life is quite unique, I find. And nurses are a different breed. And we have a lot of funny stories.
Yeah. We're trying to think of a name for the segment as well. So if anyone has some funny names, we're thinking workplace wobbles. Because that might be a little funny segment to have in the podcast, just so we can all share a funny nursing story. But Yeah, tell us a funny story that's happened to you while you've been in Australia.
Hey, nursing brings a lot of joys and a lot of funny stories.
Yeah, it sure does.
Never a dull day.
Yeah, never a dull day. From interesting poo stories to, I was even asked to shave my patient's leg the other day.
Nice.
Have you ever shaved a leg before?
No.
You do a lot when you're a nurse. You're like, never done this before, have I?
Yeah, the patient was a confused elderly, but yeah.
But I mean, you're an
serious
intensive care nurse, so you usually
exactly.
shave.
I'm supposed to know,
shave
right?
faces, right?
Yeah,
so I mean, it's no different.
I hate shaving people's faces.
I love it
because I don't shave my face, right? So I find it very difficult shaving someone's face. Like, I'm not used to a jaw and
I love it,
and like that little crease here near your mouth. Like, I'm just terrified, and then it makes it worse when the patient goes, "Bah!" and then they just scare you to act like you cut them, and then they laugh at you going, "Ha, gotcha," and I'm like, I could have killed you.
Most of mine have said that, like, oh, you did a really good job, but one guy was like, not bad, and was like, I was like, okay, you do it yourself then.
So, did you shave the leg?
No, I didn't end up shaving the leg. The patient was very confused. It was on a night shift. I shaved their face.
Okay.
They even offered to pay me for that, but I said, first one is
one's
free. First one is free.
That's so good.
Is that like your little saying? You know, when you're a nurse and you always have like a little saying, like, for example, I work in recovery a lot and we have to roll the patient to kind of get the sheets out from under them, or like a cesarean patient always turning. And then I always joke, I'm like, as we're turning, I'm like, don't worry. I'm like, we've never dropped anybody. And I was like, plus it's far too much paperwork. Like, and that's always like my joke. Like, I'm always just like, it's just too much paperwork. And I don't have time for that.
Anybody.
Yeah. And I always joke that I've never dropped anyone yet. And also it's just too much paperwork. And it's just my little nursing kind of funny thing that I always kind of throw in there. Is that yours? Don't worry.
Yeah,
First one's free.
Oh, they always look at me and I'm like, nobody got past me yet. They look at me like,
yeah.
Do I pay you? I heard on the grapevine that you've got some really funny poo-related stories.
Oh, poo-related stories. Yeah, that's the hot topic.
Is this a hot topic? We love a good poo story.
Recently, yeah.
And then you're an intensive care nurse, so
there's a lot.
So there's plenty,
Yeah.
There's definitely plenty of poo stories in the intensive care.
Something to do with the commode. Is this the commode story?
Yeah, the commode story. Yeah.
I haven't heard the story. That's all I know is commode, poo, ICU. That's all I know.
It was terrible. Yeah, so I had a confused patient. They're always confused in ICU. But that was during the day. There wasn't a night shift, and the patient was quite incontinent, but he agreed to let me know when he needs to go to the toilet. So he did let me know, and as I was getting ready, so he sat up on the bed, and as he was transferring, he just started pooing in the middle.
Oh no!
And
did you have the little bath? Did you have the little? You know the little basket underneath that you can kind of put a pan under?
No, I just had the commode there next to the bed.
No.
So I was 100% confident that he's going to make it, and
No,
he was
never be
making
confident,
it.
Max.
But he just sat on the bed, and he was 100% good standing up, and he just stood up like nothing is happening, and he just kept pulling, and then he transferred on the commode while he's doing that, and then he sat, and I'm like...
Great.
And then they're like, I'm done now. And you're like, oh... Okay.
Oh, he didn't say anything. He's like, all right, I'm ready. And I'm like, you just went. He's like, oh, sorry. So, yeah.
I've done that before. And I love, they've got that little basket spot on the bottom of a commode where you're supposed to be able to put a pan. But I mean, sometimes in your agency, you don't know where things are, or like they don't maybe have that little insert yet. But like I've done it before where I'm taking someone to the toilet and there's like little nuggets falling on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're having to dodge it with your feet and you're like, oh my God, the nuggets are coming out already.
Or you're just going for a shower and they don't even go in the toilet. So they're on the commode to take them to the shower and they're leaving a trail behind.
Yeah. And then you kind of look behind. You're like, everybody, I'll get that in a minute. It's just the patient's a priority right now. Don't slip on the nuggets. I'm so sorry.
Don't slip on the nuggets.
Don't slip on them. We've all been there. I thought I would tell a funny story that happened when I was in my grad program. So obviously when you're a new grad nurse, there's a lot of things you're trying to learn. And I was helping one of my patients with her dentures. So like, they're in the little cup and I was like, oh, I'll give them a clean for you. So I put them in the sink and I was like giving them a scrub, and I put the toothpaste on and I'm sitting there and I'm kind of cleaning them. And then I just felt like there was just stuff on the dentures that just like wasn't coming off. And it was like really rough. And I was like, what is going on? Like these are like really dirty. And then I couldn't figure it out. It turns out, and I said to her, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, what I've done. It turns out that the toothpaste was actually denture glue.
Oh, no.
And it was in a toothpaste-looking tube. So I had put, that all over her dentures and actually fully damaged them. Like, I felt so bad.
Oh my
and
God.
I was, like, crying because I was a grad. And I was like, I didn't know. I thought it was toothpaste. And she was like, it's okay. And I was like, why does it look like toothpaste? I felt very bad. So that Polydent stuff, I hate it. I see Polydent and I'm just like,
I thought Polydent was toothpaste. Well, lucky I've never done that because I've done the same thing.
I am not the one to ask. Anyway, when I am washing anyone's dentures, I'm like, I smell it. I'm like, is that minty? Like, and then I'll really investigate now because I felt terrible.
Yeah.
That I washed someone's dentures with denture glue.
That's
These are
bad.
expensive, yeah.
Yeah, very expensive.
Very, yeah.
And I've learned from that lesson. 10 years on, never done that again.
Very bad, very bad.
Never, ever, ever done that again.
Well, I thought I would share a little maybe dictionary lesson of some names.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I was going to just describe punami, really.
Yeah, punami.
Because a punami is what we all call...
Punami is a common
very common
term.
They're common in ICU because usually they're quite backed up. They haven't gone for 5 days. You know, it gets to the 5, 6, 7 day mark and everyone's like, oh, God, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah, think about it. They're like laying down. They're not moving. They're not eating and drinking. Like
We're going to blast them with some Cloxol and Senna. We're going to blast them with some lactulose. We're going to give them everything under the possible sun to try and get these bowels moving.
They're going to blast
But
you
it
back.
takes so long to get through your digestive tract that by the time it actually starts working, you get the punami. So it's a tsunami of poo.
Yeah.
And it literally can go from someone's shoulders to someone's toes to out the end of the bed. I've seen it dripping off the end of the bed before. It is very interesting.
But at the same time, you're kind of happy deep down as a nurse because you're like, well, you're not constipated no more.
No.
You know, it's out.
Exactly.
Oh,
It
they're
happened
either-
during my shift, so I can take the pride.
But then it's like
Clean the
6 days
punami.
of punami. And then you're like, well, which one would you rather?
Yeah.
You know?
But nurses do get that satisfaction when someone's, you know, really uncomfortable, really blocked up, and then they have gone. You're like, yes,
Yeah.
I helped that. Whether it was a punami or not, I helped that situation. get
Yeah.
better. It's just those little
This is
things.
a great
isn't it?
life as a nurse, isn't it? Join us!
Joys of nursing, but agency nursing is the best.
Yeah.
It really
What have you
is.
felt with the highlights of being an agency nurse?
The independency, just the freedom, that's the best. The pay is, of course, a big bonus. Yeah, just being looked after so well.
It's a really
Traveling
cool
from,
lifestyle.
From one
isn't it?
nice accommodation to another nice accommodation.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the places you explore are amazing.
Yeah. Being able to travel Australia too. Obviously, you've
Yeah.
never been to Australia. So
Yeah. No,
I
it's a
haven't.
great way to travel and earn some really
best
good
way,
coin.
Was your plan to come for a short time, or was your plan to come for kind of a significant amount of time?
Yeah, my initial plan was to come here for 6 weeks, do a contract, go back to New Zealand.
Wow.
So I even took some time off from my full-time work in New Zealand. But then when I realized that it's not going to happen, then I wanted to come for half a year first and then go to Europe, travel a little bit. And just one thing led to another, and I'm still here. So
did you come with a
I still
suitcase?
plan to. Yeah. So I still have
Wow.
lots of stuff left in New Zealand. So
Yeah.
one day I'll go back and sort everything.
One day.
Just enjoy.
Yeah.
It's so amazing that you just get to design your life. You just get to go with the flow. You kind of get to, you know, learn in different environments, different hospitals, earn some
Yeah,
really
it's
good
amazing.
money.
Yeah.
I love being a tourist in every single place that I get to go. Like, you know, being in Byron Bay, like being able to like surf and just like do all those amazing things. I love being a tourist in all those areas.
Yeah, tourist is the best.
It was a lot of fun. What's your plan next after, you know, you're now on a contract in Tweed until January? What is your plan after that? Travel or continue?
Plan to continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Nice.
work is travel, so it's great.
Yeah.
You do both. In IC you do 12-hour shifts, so most of the weeks you work 3 or 4 shifts a week, and all the rest you get to explore the area.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
You're like
amazing.
inspiring me to be
Yeah.
an agency nurse, but I already am an agency nurse.
You're selling it.
Be an agency nurse.
I know. It's like I'm like, I want to do this. I'm like, I do this. This is my life. It's so great.
Is there a place you like you
amazing.
really want to go next, or like you've got any plans for your hotspots?
I want to explore Tasmania, South Australia, Victoria. Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere.
So
You just dropped everywhere.
Just everywhere. Yeah. Go to Perth one
NTWA.
day, hopefully.
Yeah.
You
And
can
you
get-
have your own car?
No.
You get rental cars with the...
Yes,
yeah.
I do. So HCA is looking after me really well, and when the accommodation is booked further from the hospital than walking distance, I get a car.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
We look after you. We're not going to, you know, make you take 40 minutes to get to work.
No, you're the
And
best.
especially these like new, surge contracts where they're so desperate. There's not a lot of accommodation because that's kind of the issue that, you know, they had floods or things like that they don't have accommodation for everyone. So you're going to be a bit further away. So you're there to help them in, you know, a crisis. So you're going to be a bit further away sometimes and do get a hire car. Or if you have your own car, then that's even better.
It's still not bad, but it's only 20 minutes away.
Yeah,
so.
That's usually what people have to travel to work anyway.
Yeah.
Some people in a metro kind of city, like in Sydney, they can take an hour to an hour and a half to even get to their work. And then they have to pay for parking, which is like, you used to pay a lot of money for parking in Sydney, didn't you? A lot of money.
I paid $13 a day, and that was a staff discount rate. To park at work. But I worked in the CBD, like in the city. So you couldn't park anywhere else except the hospital car park, because if the street parking was only a 2-hour paid parking and it was like still $5 an hour. So you would end up having to move your car every 2 hours and pay $5 every hour. So you had to park in the car park. There's nothing else you could do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be spending $60, $70 a week on car parking.
That's a lot of money. I know, like for 4 years I did back-to-back contracts, and I did it over across, I think, about 3 states. And most of the time, actually, I think all of my contracts has always been walking distance to the hospital. So it's just been like down the road. And if it's ever a night shift, and even if I am down the road and it is nighttime and I don't want to, have that risk of walking by myself, there's always people in the hospital that will pick me up on the way or drop me off in the morning. Like, it's totally fine. It's always like been just like around the corner. And it's been just such a great perk of like, if you don't have a car and you're an agency nurse, that's totally fine. Yeah. But obviously, if you're in a situation and you put on a contract and, accommodation is further away, then they'll look at things to help you out as well. Yes. We look after you guys.
Yeah.
And if you ever have any questions, Xana and I actually do all the social media. We mentioned it just before with Kirby as well when we interviewed her, but you can message us absolutely anytime. We've got our own Facebook page called HCA Ambassadors. So reach out to us, man.
Yeah.
We're excited.
We'll help you on this amazing journey and come over for summer, like I said before, because summer's great.
Yeah. And Max,
It's amazing. Just do it. Just do agency nursing.
Yeah.
That's like your biggest tip. You're like, great. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. You won't regret it.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.